Life was mundane, punctuated by deadlines and the occasional night out. Everything changed when I woke up one morning after a week of battling what I assumed was the flu. That morning, sunlight filtered through my blinds, casting lines of light and shadow across my room. I stretched my arms, ready for a day of recovery, but as I glanced at my hands, a sense of dread crept over me. The skin on my fingers looked different. It was translucent, almost like a thin veil, revealing the intricate network of veins and tendons beneath. My heart raced as I rushed to the mirror, only to confront a visage that was both mine and utterly alien. Patches of my face and neck had the same unsettling transparency. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a side effect of the medication, anything to deny the reality before me. But as the days passed, the transparency spread, creeping like frost over a windowpane, unveiling the workings underneath my skin. A sight both fascinating and horrifying. Fear of the unknown took hold of me. I retreated from the world, my days consumed by a frantic search for answers. The doctors I visited were baffled, offering only sympathetic shrugs and referrals to specialists. I became a medical curiosity, poked and prodded, yet no closer to understanding what was happening to me. My isolation wasn't just physical. Friends and family, initially concerned, began to drift away, uncomfortable with my transformation. The world outside felt increasingly distant, a life that was once mine now seemed like a fading dream. I decided to take matters into my own hands, delving into medical texts and online forums, searching for anyone who might have experienced something similar. But as I searched for answers, strange things began to happen around me, things that defied rational explanation. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, whispers filled the air at night, and objects around my house moved as if of their own volition. It was in this state of fear and confusion that I stumbled upon an old medical journal in the depths of the internet, detailing a case from the 1800s remarkably similar to mine. The patient, like me, had gradually become transparent until one day, he simply vanished, leaving behind only his clothes. This revelation filled me with a mix of terror and morbid curiosity. What had become of him? Was I destined to share his fate? I knew then that my condition was more than a mere physical ailment. It was a mystery tied to something ancient and unexplainable, and I was determined to uncover the truth before it was too late. The days following the discovery of the medical journal were a blur of sleepless nights and obsessive research. I scoured every source I could find, desperate for any clue that might shed light on my condition. But the more I searched, the more isolated I felt. People in the town, once friendly, now averted their eyes when I passed. Whispers followed me in the streets. My transparent skin became a spectacle, a source of fear and morbid fascination. I remember the first time I realized that my condition was more than just a physical anomaly. I was sitting at my desk, surrounded by medical books and papers, when a sudden chill swept through the room. The air grew heavy, as if charged with static. I glanced up, and for a moment, I thought I saw a figure in the corner of my eye, a shadow that vanished when I turned to look. My heart raced, and an inexplicable sense of dread filled me. It was that night that the whispers began. Soft, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the walls of my house. I would wake up in the dead of night, the words just beyond my understanding. At first, I thought it was the stress, the lack of sleep playing tricks on my mind. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if urging me towards some unknown end. The physical changes continued unabated. My once opaque skin was now almost entirely translucent, revealing the stark outline of bones and the intricate web of arteries and veins beneath. I avoided mirrors, unable to bear the sight of my own body. It was during one of these moments of avoidance, as I passed by the bathroom mirror, that I caught a glimpse of something that chilled me to my core. For a split second, I saw another face superimposed over mine, its features twisted in an expression of agony. I blinked, and it was gone. Panic set in. I knew then that whatever was happening to me was linked to something beyond the scope of normal understanding. The old medical journal's account of the vanishing patient haunted me. Was I to share his fate? To simply cease to exist in a world that no longer recognized me as one of its own? The realization that my time was running out spurred me into action. I started to compile all the information I had gathered, looking for any pattern, any clue that might lead to an answer. That's when I stumbled upon a reference to an old ritual, mentioned in passing in a dusty tome on folklore. It spoke of a curse, one that caused the afflicted to fade from existence, and a ritual that could reverse it. I had never been one for superstition, but desperation drove me. The ritual required certain items, some easily obtained, others less so. I gathered them, each one adding to the growing sense of unease that had taken root in my heart. The whispers grew louder, more coherent, as if whatever force that was at play sensed my intent. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being guided towards an inevitable conclusion. But whether that conclusion was my salvation or my doom, I couldn't say. The days turned into a relentless pursuit of the obscure and arcane. My once orderly home became cluttered with esoteric books, candles, and herbs. The tools I hoped would save me from my unseen tormentor. The whispers in the night turned into voices, clear and distinct, speaking in a language I couldn't understand, yet filled with an urgency that left me in no doubt of their malevolent intent. I found myself drawn deeper into the world of the supernatural. The more I delved, the more the line between reality and the otherworldly blurred. Shadows in my home moved with a life of their own, and cold spots appeared randomly, sending shivers down my spine. One evening, as I pored over an ancient manuscript, I discovered a chilling illustration. A figure with skin as clear as glass, standing at the crossroads of what seemed like different realms. The image mirrored my own condition so closely that it took my breath away. Below the illustration, a caption read, "He who transcends the veil sees the world not as it is, but as it truly lies." This cryptic message became the focus of my obsession. I started seeing patterns in the whispers, a map that seemed to guide me towards an unknown destination. My dreams, once an escape, turned into vivid nightmares, each more disturbing than the last. I dreamt of endless corridors, of faceless figures pursuing me, of a darkness that threatened to consume me. Despite the fear and uncertainty, a part of me was determined to uncover the truth. I began to experiment with the ritual, practicing the incantations, and arranging the items in the precise order described in the ancient texts. Each attempt left me drained, both physically and emotionally, yet no closer to a cure. My appearance continued to change, my body becoming a living anatomy chart, a grotesque display of what lay beneath the surface. I avoided leaving the house, fearing the reactions of the townsfolk, and retreated further into my research. The turning point came one stormy night. The wind howled outside, a symphony to the chaos that had become my life. As I sat in my study, surrounded by flickering candles and ancient tomes, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. I felt a presence in the room with me, oppressive and dark. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the room, slowly taking a humanoid form. Fear gripped me, but so did a sense of anticipation. This was the entity connected to my condition, the source of the whispers and the visions. It stood before me, a figure of shadows and whispers, its form constantly shifting, never quite solid. In that moment, I understood that this was not just a battle for my life, but for my very soul. I stood up, confronting the entity. The ritual items lay spread out before me on the table. I began to recite the incantations, my voice steady despite the terror that gripped me. The shadow figure recoiled, as if the words caused it pain. I continued, louder and more confidently, the room filling with a light that seemed to emanate from within me. The entity writhed, its form becoming more erratic. I felt a connection to it, a realization that it was not just a tormentor, but a part of me, a manifestation of the illness that had consumed my life. As I reached the climax of the ritual, a blinding light filled the room, and a shockwave of energy knocked me off my feet. When I regained consciousness, the room was quiet, the entity gone. I rushed to the mirror, half expecting, half fearing what I might see. My reflection stared back at me, my skin once again opaque, my appearance normal. But in my eyes, there was a depth, a knowledge of things no human was meant to know. In the aftermath of the ritual, a profound silence enveloped my home. The air felt lighter, cleansed of the oppressive presence that had haunted me. I approached the mirror cautiously, half expecting the horror to return. But my reflection was undeniably mine, my skin restored to its natural opacity. Yet, something in my eyes reflected a deeper change, a remnant of the nightmare I had lived through. The relief was palpable, yet short-lived. That night, as I tried to sleep, the dreams returned. But they were different now, clearer, more vivid. I found myself in the same endless corridors I had dreamt of before, only this time, there was a destination, an end I was being inexorably drawn towards. I woke up with a start, the remnants of the dream lingering in my mind. An idea began to take shape, a realization that the ritual hadn't just banished the entity, but had forged a connection between us. The dreams were a message, a guide to understanding the true nature of my affliction. I spent the following days in a trance-like state, my actions guided by the visions that came to me in my sleep. I returned to the ancient texts, rereading them with new eyes. Passages that had once seemed meaningless now resonated with significance. The entity, the ritual, my transformation, they were all pieces of a larger puzzle that spanned beyond the realm of the living. One night, as I delved deeper into the mysteries revealed to me, the air around me grew cold. The familiar sense of being watched returned, but it was different this time. There was no malice, only a sense of urgency. I turned to see the shadow figure standing at the threshold of my study, its form more defined than ever. I didn't feel fear, only a recognition. The entity spoke, its voice a whisper that filled the room. You have crossed the veil, seen the truth that lies beneath. But knowledge comes with a price. I listened, transfixed, as it revealed the origins of my affliction. It spoke of an ancient curse, one born of a forbidden knowledge that had been lost to time. My illness was no random occurrence, but a legacy passed down through generations, a marker of those who had dared to glimpse the truths hidden in the shadows of our world. The entity's words resonated within me, filling me with a sense of purpose. I understood then that my journey was far from over. The ritual had not cured me, but transformed me, made me a bridge between the living and the unseen. As the entity faded into the shadows, I was left with a choice. I could try to return to my old life, to the mundane existence I had known, or I could embrace the path laid out before me, a path that would lead me into the depths of the unknown. I chose the latter. The days following my encounter with the entity were a mixture of enlightenment and trepidation. I was no longer the man I used to be, both physically and spiritually. My skin, once a transparent window into my body, had returned to normal, but the experience had left its mark on me. I could feel the thin veil between the mundane world and the one that lurks in the shadows. I began to document everything: my illness, the rituals, the entity, and the revelations it brought. My home turned into a sanctuary of the occult, walls lined with books and papers detailing the secrets that had been unveiled to me. I knew I had a responsibility, a duty to understand and perhaps guide others who might find themselves afflicted by similar curses. As I delved deeper into this new world, I found hints of others like me, those who had crossed the boundary and come back changed. I reached out to them, finding solace in our shared experiences. We were a community of the marked, the ones who walked the line between light and dark. However, with this new role came a sense of isolation from the rest of the world. My friends and family, already distanced by my transformation, found it hard to relate to the person I had become. I tried to explain, to make them understand, but the truth was too far removed from their reality. I was a stranger in a world I once called home. As the weeks turned into months, I became more adept at navigating the two worlds. The visions that had once tormented me now became guides, leading me to others affected by supernatural afflictions. I helped where I could, using the knowledge I had gained to break curses and banish entities. But the entity that had started it all remained a constant presence in my life. It was neither friend nor foe, but a guardian of sorts, a reminder of the price I had paid for my knowledge. It appeared to me in dreams, sometimes as a guide, sometimes as a warning of dangers to come. In this new existence, I found a purpose I had never known. My life, once defined by deadlines and digital designs, was now a journey into the unknown, a quest to understand the mysteries that lay just beyond our sight. Months turned into a year since my world had been turned upside down by the transparent malady. The once frightening transformation and the subsequent journey into the supernatural had become a part of who I was. I had embraced my role as a mediator between the seen and the unseen, helping those touched by the otherworldly forces. Yet, despite my newfound purpose, a part of me longed for the normalcy of my old life. I missed the simple days of being just Charlie, the graphic designer, not the man who had crossed the veil and returned. The whispers of the other realm had become a constant companion, a reminder that I could never fully return to the world I once knew. I continued to document my experiences, compiling a comprehensive guide for those who might find themselves on a similar path. The entity, my spectral mentor, appeared less frequently, its visits more observational than interactive, as if satisfied with the role it had played in my transformation. In quiet moments, I often pondered the true nature of my affliction. Was it truly a curse, or had it been a blessing in disguise? It had opened my eyes to the mysteries of the world, shown me wonders and horrors beyond human comprehension. It had given me a purpose greater than any I could have imagined. As time passed, my life found a new rhythm, a balance between the ordinary and the extraordinary. I reconnected with a few old friends, sharing only the parts of my story that I could. My family, though still wary, began to accept the changes in me, understanding that I was still the same person at heart. The last page of my documented journey was both an end and a beginning. I realized that my story was not just mine, but a part of a larger tapestry, woven with the threads of countless others who had walked the shadowed path. I left the door open for those who might one day find themselves lost in the darkness, offering guidance and a beacon of light to lead them back. My journey had taught me that in the world of the supernatural, there are always more questions than answers, and every ending is just the start of another story. As I closed the cover of my journal, I looked out of the window, the world seemingly normal yet forever changed in my eyes. I knew that the entity and the otherworldly forces would always be a part of me, a whisper in the back of my mind, a shadow at the edge of my vision. But I was ready. Ready for whatever mysteries the future held, ready to face the unknown with a sense of wonder and a heart fortified by the trials I had overcome. The transparent malady had been my curse, but it had also been my awakening.